Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. Before you ask what PMDD is, it is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you have PMDD or your partner has PMDD. It doesn't matter. I work with both individuals. And what I do is I give you my strategic trauma transformational tools that help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups, get rid of the stress, the arguing, and the fighting within your luteal phase and every other phase of your cycle. You are not alone in this. I have personally been suffering with premenstrual dysphoric disorder for over 19 years, and I'm here to give you tools on how to stop the monthly PMDD breakups. We got this. I love you. Today, I want to talk to you about something very important if you are trying to get your partner to be more supportive, if you're trying to get your partner to be more loving, if you're trying to get your partner to be more affectionate, and this is for the partner that has premenstrual dysphoric disorder and the partner that does not. There may be this common mistake that you are making that I've seen so often with my clients, and they're making this mistake and it's really preventing them from getting their partner to change in any way within the relationship. But I wanted to make sure that I talked about this because it's done subconsciously. And I think that a lot of times you're getting frustrated because you're consistently telling your partner that you need them to be more supportive, telling them that you need them to do more of something, telling them that you need them to do less of something. Maybe you're saying that you need to have more space in PMDD. Maybe you're setting these boundaries where you're saying, let's not talk about, really important issues during the luteal phase. You're trying to put all of these boundaries in place and you're wondering why your partner's not listening to you. You're wondering why they're consistently doing things that you have literally said that this is not the right thing to do. It's going to be a big blow up. We're going to have a fight. We're going to have an argument. And then you end up in the same circle and you get really frustrated with telling your partner the same thing again and again and again and again. And this is when you start to think that maybe you're not compatible. Maybe you shouldn't be with this partner because they're not listening to you or they're not getting it. You don't feel seen. You don't feel heard. You don't feel validated. You don't feel appreciated. You don't feel like they really understand your struggle or what you're going through. I've been in this case so many times and this common mistake has been made. So I really wanted to just tell you about the tools today, about what you can really do when you find yourself in this frustrated place. And that is you are literally, and when I tell you what it is that you're doing, I know there's going to be a lot of resistance to it because it's going to be like, Dr. Rose, I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to tell them, or I need to tell them, or they don't understand unless I tell them. But you may be in this loop, and I've been here before, and I've been here subconsciously, meaning I haven't consciously done it in like, hey, I'm presently doing this, but I've just been so frustrated with trying to get my partner to understand me, to see me, to do the things that I know would make our PMDD relationship better. And I've ended up making this mistake. And I've done this a couple of times and I had a pattern of doing this. And it's just been so damaging and it's a scam and it doesn't work. And that is you are parenting your PMDD partner. And what I mean by that, instead of being their partner, instead of being someone that's on an equal level, you become a parent to your partner when you start to strategically tell them all the things that they should be doing, all the things that they shouldn't be doing. You call it setting boundaries, but what you're really doing is putting yourself in this parental role, because as soon as they don't do the things that you told them to do, or they neglect to do the things that you did tell them to do, then you start to withhold affection, withhold attention, withhold validation, the same way that you would tell, a child, you can't play with your toys, because you didn't clean your room kind of deal. And there's a lot of resistance, right? When you're telling your partner the same thing again and again and again, and you're wondering why they're not getting it. They may be in this place where the ego steps in, and the ego does not like to be told what to do in a way that is demeaning, that is disrespectful. It'll start to kind of counter back. If you've ever noticed that your partner is acting out of character, meaning they're saying things to you that they wouldn't normally say, or they're doing things that they wouldn't normally do, that's because you've bruised their ego. They're feeling resentful towards doing anything that you're saying that they should do because they feel like they're the child because you're parenting them. And I remember thinking to myself so many times that if I don't tell them what to do or what not to do, they're not going to understand me. They're not going to get it. And I thought I was doing the right thing by communicating to them, this is what works for me, or this is what doesn't work for me. And what I was really doing was putting myself in that parental role. And this really started to impact my intimacy. It started to impact the way that my partner spoke to me because they were getting a little rebellious. They were getting rebellious because they were resentful, because they felt like kind of like I was treating them like a child, like I was punking them. Your partner will start to repel the things that you're telling them what to do if they feel like they're being forced to do it. No one wants to feel like they're forced to do anything, because if they feel like you're forcing them, if they feel like you're making them, then they're going to resist it. They're almost going to continue with that behavior longer than they would have if you hadn't called them out on it. And so, I'm all about calling your partner out when it comes to behavior that's damaging to your PMDD relationship, but not in a way that you become a parent. Because again, one of the biggest things that happened when I did this was the intimacy. The intimacy really went down. So I want you to ask yourself, are you and your partner still intimate? Are you and your partner still intimate on a consistent basis? Are you and your partner still connecting on an intimate level? And a lot of times, if the answer is no, it's because they're looking at you like you're nagging them. They're never good enough. They're walking on eggshells. All of these things are preventing intimacy. They're preventing you from being intimate with your premenstrual dysphoric disorder partner. This is for the partner that has PMDD and the partner that doesn't. So if you've not taken my course, my partner has PMDD, now what? One of the biggest mistakes that I put in one of the first modules is trying to fix your partner. If this is the partner that has premenstrual dysphoric disorder, you're going and you're reading up and doing all this research, and you should take this supplement, or you should stop doing this, or maybe you should cut back on this. And you're starting to parent them in a way that you would a child. And then when you go to be intimate with them, they're not looking at you like they're a partner, that you're an equal. They're looking at you like you're a parent, and they're going to start to resent being intimate with you. They're going to start to resent all of these things because they're going to start to feel like it's something that they have to do versus something that they want to do. And again, I'm telling you this because a lot of times you're doing it subconsciously, and you're doing it because you feel like it's the only way to get your partner to do the things that you know that you need them to do. And you feel like you're you. So you should be able to tell them, like, I know what it is that I need. I know what it is that I don't need. So if I don't tell them, they won't do it. Here's the thing that I want you to know about your partner. Your partners are smart. Your partners are not dun-dun-dun, meaning you didn't marry someone, you didn't agree to be with someone who's not intelligent. I was working with a client earlier this week, and they were so surprised because they were on a session with us together, and they were saying, I know what she needs. I know she needs acts of service. I know she needs me to help out more around the house. And then they went on to all of these other things that were going on in the relationship. And the other partner was shocked. She was shocked because she was like, wait, I never thought that they knew what it is that, I needed from them. I thought that I had to tell them. And I'm like, no, a lot of times your partner knows what it is that you need. They just don't want to feel like they're doing it because you're forcing them to do it, because you're telling them to do it. It's inauthentic. If someone feels like the only reason that they're doing something is because you're telling them to do it, then it doesn't mean as much. And it shouldn't mean as much to you if you know that the only reason somebody's doing something is because you're forcing them, you're telling them, or they're feeling like there's not going to be peace in the house unless they do it. And I gave this example the other day. I was saying, if I get up in the morning and I'm helping my daughter with certain things and she's like, I love you, I won't feel as fulfilled knowing that she's saying, I love you, if I feel like she's doing it because she feels like she has to do it. I want her to just be in a moment and desire to say that she loves me. And that's when she's saying it. If I felt like she was programmed to say it, or she felt like, if you want to have breakfast, or if you want to get a treat, or if you want to do something good, then you need to say, I love you. Then it's going to be inauthentic. And a lot of times you are parenting your PMDD partner, and it's really damaging your relationship. And a lot of times, again, you're doing this unintentionally. So I'm going to give you some signs of what it looks like for you to be parenting your partner, because I want you to kind of catch yourself when you're doing it. When I recognized that this was damaging to my relationship and it wasn't really serving us, it wasn't making my partner want to do the things that I needed them to do. Matter of fact, I think it was one or two times where I noticed that they were saying things and doing things and it wasn't authentic, because you'll get to that point where you can feel like, wait a minute, they don't really mean that, or they're just saying that. And it doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end of some kind of attention, affection, love, validation that is not genuine. It's just because if they feel like this is something that they have to do in order to be in a relationship with you. So the first thing that can happen when you're parenting your PMDD partner, and again, this is for the partner that has PMDD and the partner that doesn't, is you're consistently correcting or scolding their behavior. You're saying things like, you can't talk to me like that, or you need to calm down. You're always trying to regulate your partner's emotions instead of letting them regulate them themselves. Your partner is never going to learn how to self-soothe or regulate their own emotions if you're always giving commands about what emotion they're supposed to have in each moment. So this tone sounds more like correcting a child than a partnership that is communicating with empathy. If you're saying to them, you can't talk to me right like that right now, or I don't want you to talk to me like that right now, that's like a parent. That's like telling your parent, hey, don't raise your voice at me. Or if you're telling your partner, like, you need to calm down right now. That's like a parent. That's what you tell to your child when they start raising their voice and they're not able to manage their emotions. And you start to tell them, hey, you don't talk to me like that. You need to calm down. That's what you're doing when you're parenting your PMDD partner. The next sign that you are parenting your PMDD partner is you're monitoring their mood consistently. You're always asking them how they're feeling, what their mood is. Are you okay now? You seem moody again. You seem sad. You seem mad. You seem this. You seem that. You're constantly nagging them and talking about the emotions that they're having instead of letting them process them. This used to happen to me so many times where I would just get quiet, or I would be experiencing an emotion and my partner would consistently be saying, what's wrong? You seem sad right now, or you seem mad right now, or you seem this. Sometimes your partner just needs to be in this space where they're able to process their emotions without consistently talking about the emotions that they're processing. Give them space and time to process their own emotions and then come to you after they're processed. A lot of times when they're in the middle of it, they can't even explain to you what emotion they're having or why they're having it. And so when you're consistently picking on them and you're saying, why do you look like that? Or why are you so quiet? Or why are you not talking right now? Or it seems like you're distracted. When you're making assumptions about your partner's mood, you're checking on them as if they are a child. This can feel like they're under a surveillance camera. They're going to start to feel suffocated. They're going to start to feel trapped because you're commenting on every emotion that they're having. It's going to feel like surveillance instead of support. So it creates this pressure and reinforces that, they can't regulate themselves and they need to always be happy, or they need to always be a certain way in order for you to not be triggered. It's going to get to the point where your partner is not going to feel safe having their authentic emotions unless it's an emotion that they feel that you can handle. When you get to that point and you feel like your partner can't handle you being sad, or your partner can't handle you being mad, or your partner can't handle you being triggered, you're going to feel pressure to stay in a state that is not authentic to how you're really feeling, just so you don't trigger your partner. And that's when they're going to start to feel like they're going to want to avoid you, because they're going to be like, every single time I get sad, or every single time I get mad, or every single time I get triggered, it's going to bother them. So I can't be my authentic self. So I'm just going to be better off alone. They're going to feel like they're better off alone because when they're alone, they're able to express their emotions in any way that they come up without having to explain them to someone, without having to over explain. A lot of times you don't know why you're feeling sad, or why you're feeling mad, or why you're feeling triggered until you've processed those emotions. If you're listening to this episode and you're thinking to yourself, Dr. Rose, my partner and I need these tools in our PMDD relationship. We need them customized to exactly what's going on. We're in that place where we're stressed, we're arguing, we're in that same cycle again and again and again, and we don't know what to do. We've tried so many things. We've tried to do it on our own. I don't want to continue another month, another cycle, going through premenstrual dysphoric disorder and having these fights and arguments. Honestly, I don't even know if we're going to make it. So if you're in this place and you're listening to this episode and everything that I'm saying is really resonating with you, and you know that you need the private session for the month of July, I am going to be launching a series called PMDD Freedom. If you use the code PMDD Freedom, you will get $100 off of my private sessions. Use the code PMDD Freedom. Go to inlovewithpmdd.com, put that coupon code code in, you're going to get $100 off of the private sessions only for the month of July. I am announcing it right now, so feel free to go book up on the calendar. I am only doing this for the month of July of 2025. So I'll see you in our private sessions. We got this. So the next sign that you're parenting your PMDD partner is you're controlling their schedules or routines. This happens so often when you assume, because they're in a certain phase of their cycle, oh, you should be doing this, or you normally do this at this time, or maybe you should get more sleep, or you shouldn't be eating that during your luteal phase. When you're consistently telling them what they should and shouldn't be doing during the luteal phase, you're parenting them. When a lot of times every single luteal phase is different. There's some months where you want to eat more, and there's some months where you want to eat less, or there's some months where you want to sleep more, and there's some months where you can't really sleep. And there's certain self-care things that really are subjective to the phase of the cycle that you're in. Every single cycle is not going to be the same. So if your partner's in that space where they're only expecting you to be the same way that you were last month, and they're expecting you to be on this routine, and you feel like you have no, what I call psychological flexibility, meaning I may have a routine this month and it can completely change next month. And that may be based on how I'm feeling in my cycle. So while your intentions may be good as the partner, we're trying to keep them on track or keep them with something that maybe worked with them the last cycle, maybe that doesn't work with them this cycle. So it crosses into parenting, and it lets go of your partner having the freedom to say, hey, I know this worked for me last month, but this month it's not working for me. If you're consistently trying to tell them what they should be doing in their luteal phase and their ovulation and your menstruation and in their follicular phase, you're not allowing them the freedom to be in every phase of their cycle. Again, this is for the partner that has PMDD and the partner that doesn't. And the next thing that can happen when you're parenting your PMDD partner is you're making decisions without input. You're assuming that your partner, because they're in the luteal phase and they're suffering with premenstrual dysphoric disorder symptoms, that they're not in a place to make any decisions. Or you're assuming that they're going to be moody, or you're assuming that they're going to be emotional, or you're assuming that they're going to have this rejection sensitivity. So you start to hold things in, or you start to not share certain things, or you start to make big decisions on your own and saying things like, I'll just handle it. You're too emotional right now while you're in PMDD. Or you're too emotional in the luteal phase. So this assumes that the partner that has PMDD is incapable of making decisions, which can be disempowering. It can make them feel like a broken bird, like they're not intelligent enough to handle things. A lot of times the individuals who have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, they're going to work every single day. They're doing their job. So when you're making it seem like they're not capable of doing little things within the relationship, or you're hiding things from them, or saying, I didn't want to say this to them because I didn't want them to be mad, do not assume. Check in with your partner and see how they're really feeling, how they're really doing, without assuming that they're not able to handle the things that are going on in your relationship, because then you're parenting them instead of being a partner. A partner would go to them with whatever issues are going on in the relationship, whatever issues are going on in the household, to see if they're able to handle it at that moment. If a decision needs to be made, let it be after you checked in with the partner. So the next sign is you're withholding or granting privileges based on behavior. You're saying things like, if you keep this, I'm not going to go out with you. We're not going to be able to go to this event. We're not going to be able to go out in public. If you're going to keep crying, if you're going to keep nagging me, if we're fighting, then we're not going to be able to go out and go to the social event. So this turns the relationship into a reward and punishment system rather than mutual respect and partnership. You're basically saying, if you're going to be on your best behavior, we can go. If you're not going to be on your best behavior, then we can't go. And I've been in this situation so many times where my feelings have been invalidated. And it's like, hey, it seems like you're too emotional to go out right now, or it seems like this is not a good time. You're assuming that it's not a good time based off of your perception. Instead of asking them like a partner, you're acting like a parent, and you're rewarding them like, hey, if you can stop nagging, we can stop arguing, if you can stop doing all of these things and being emotional, then we can go out and have a good time. If not, let's just cancel the trip. How many times have you been arguing and fighting, and then one partner just cancel the date and say, we're not going out, or I'm not going out with you because we're in this situation? That means you're being a parent. You're taking away their ability to go socialize because they haven't been on their best behavior. So the next sign is you're over explaining or you're lecturing, you're starting to tell them, give them big, long lectures and say, you need to understand when you get like this, it affects everybody around you. It's not just about PMDD. It's not just about you. There's so much else going on in this world. There's so much else going on in this relationship. And you're talking to them like they're a child. You're giving them the grand, big picture of everything, but lecturing implies that the individual who has PMDD is unaware of their impact on everybody else, or they're not trying, which can make them feel shameful, which can make them feel guilty, which can make you feel like the parent, you feel like the daddy, or you feel like the mommy when you're telling them how their actions impact everyone else in the relationship, or and maybe everybody else that they're around when they know that. Remember, your partner is smart. They're aware of how their behavior is impacting other people, including you. They don't need you to lecture them and over explain how they're impacting you if they're already feeling guilty about it. And the next sign is that you're emotionally rescuing them instead of collaborating with them. And what I mean by that is you're just saying, don't worry, I'll just fix it for you. Maybe they went off on their child, your child together. And maybe they did something where they acted out of character. And instead of you all having a conversation with your child together and saying, mommy or daddy had this, they were in this mood, or they had this kind of reaction and they're apologizing. Instead of you collaborating on how you can address the issue, you're saying, don't worry, I'll just fix it for you. Like a parent would do, where they would kind of like, I'll call the school and fix this for you. So while it may come from a place of love, rescuing keeps the individual with PMDD in a helpless role and prevents growth. It doesn't help them to learn how to regulate their own emotions because they're always going to be assuming that you're going to sweep in and fix it for them. And so the next sign is that you start tracking their premenstrual dysphoric disorder cycle without collaboration. This is for the partner that has PMDD and the partner that doesn't. You may say, oh, I already know where you are in your cycle, so I knew this would happen. I already knew that you're going to be on PMDD. I've had partners do this before where maybe one month my PMDD was at the 20th of the month, right? And then we go into the next month and they're assuming that I'm in PMDD, even though my cycle may have moved. So it may be the 20th of the month and I'm not in PMDD, but they're specifically saying, oh, I already knew you were going to be emotional because, it's the 20th of the month. And I'm like, oh, no. Like I'm actually not in PMDD. How many times have you had to convince your partner or tell them incessantly, I'm not in PMDD? Like, I know that you're assuming that I am, but I'm actually in ovulation. I'm actually in my good days. I'm actually on my period. Like all of these things, it creates this power imbalance and can feel like intrusiveness rather than support, especially if it's used to invalidate your feelings, especially if you're assuming that I'm in PMDD when I'm really not. Instead of just asking, how many times have your partner told you that you're in premenstrual dysphoric disorder? Like you're in your luteal phase, you're in PMDD, instead of just asking and saying, hey, babe, are you in PMDD right now? Because I want to make sure that, we're handling the situation in the best way possible. That's asking a question and collaborating versus saying you're in PMDD and just assuming. So the next sign is that they're guilt tripping you into better behavior. They're saying, do you know how hard it is for you to be in PMDD? Do you know how hard it is for me? Do you know how hard this is for me too? Like if you start complaining about your PMDD symptoms and then they just go and say, this is so hard for me too. It's not just you that's going through this. They're guilt tripping you. And this may sound like a plea for empathy, but it's really used for manipulation. It reinforces this parent and child dynamic where you're really going in and saying like, you're not the only one that's suffering around here. I'm suffering too. So you try to tell your partner about your symptoms and how you're feeling, or maybe you're the partner that doesn't have PMDD and you're trying to tell your partner like, hey, the way that you're reacting in PMDD, the way that you're shutting down or the way that you're rejecting me is really, impacting me. And instead of them being supportive and collaborative and saying, okay, how can we fix this? They're like, oh, you're going through that where I'm suffering too, or I'm lonely too, or I could use this too, and completely invalidating your feelings and making it into this parent-child dynamic where instead of trying to meet the needs of your partner, you're talking to them like a parent and talking to them about the burdens that you have going on. And so the next sign is you're taking on the role of the emotional manager. You're kind of telling them, let me tell you how you should be feeling right now. Or how many times has your partner said, if I were you, I wouldn't have reacted that way. If I were you, I wouldn't have said that. If I were you, I wouldn't have done that. Well, guess what? They're not you. So they're going to handle the situation differently. But managing another adult's emotions instead of supporting them, it's going to come across as condescending or controlling. Like, duh, you're not going to respond the same way because we're not the same person. We don't have the same triggers. We don't have the same background. We don't have the same trauma. But when you're consistently telling them this is the way that you should be reacting in this scenario, you are parenting your PMDD partner and you're repelling any change that they could potentially have. By repelling, I mean, instead of them changing and wanting to change and wanting to be better and wanting to be more supportive, they're almost going to stay in that state of defiance where they're going to consistently not do the things that you're wanting them to do because they don't want to feel like they're forced. Because if they feel like they're forced to change because you're telling them to change, they're going to become bitter, they're going to become resentful, and they're going to become this version of themselves that is outside of who you know that they are. They're going to start to act out of character because they don't want to give in. The ego doesn't want to feel like they're forced into submission, like I'm being loving only because you're telling me that you want affection. You're going to not be nice to me. You're going to treat me differently unless I'm affectionate with you. So now I'm going to pretend like I'm affectionate, like I'm really, really into it. So this parenting dynamic often comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of love, even when you're trying to fix your partner and help your partner. And it also comes from a place of burnout where you're feeling the need to consistently tell your partner, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. But it damages trust. It turns out to make your partner feel like you don't trust them to regulate their own emotions. You don't trust them to manage their PMDD symptoms. You don't trust them to manage their emotions while they're going through the luteal phase with you. It breaks the intimacy. You don't feel intimate with someone that feels like a parent. I don't want to make love, have sex, be flirty with someone that is parenting me and telling me and scolding me and saying, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this. And it messes up your equality. You never feel like you're equal with your partner if they're always superior because maybe they're managing their emotions better than you are. Maybe instead of going off on PMDD rage, they're stonewalling you and shutting down and they're making it seem like that's more superior than going off. So now you're feeling shameful. And so there's no equality. It's almost like who's doing the most damage. And so PMDD partners may feel ashamed and defensive and rebellious in response to this parenting. And then the partner that doesn't have PMDD may feel overwhelmed and resentful and trapped in the caretaker role. They're always feeling like they need to take care of you, like they need to regulate your emotions. They need to get help. They need to do double on their self-care because you can't manage your own. When you're in a place where you're not managing your self-care, where you're not able to regulate your emotions, your partner may feel like they need to overcompensate for what you're not doing. So the best way, I'm going to teach you this today. If you want your partner to change, if you really want them to get to a point where they're shifting certain things in their behavior in a certain way, I want you to start to look at yourself and look at the things that you can change in the relationship and look at the things that you can do in the relationship and allow them to fall in line with what you are doing. I need you to influence them, not demand that they act a certain way. By influence them, that means if you're feeling like that the reason why that their PMDD symptoms are so horrible, maybe you're feeling like they need to do more self-care, right? Maybe they need to get more sleep. Instead of telling them you should go to sleep right now, it's time for you to go to sleep. Maybe you start going to sleep earlier and you just lovingly giving them a kiss on the forehead or giving them a kiss on the lips or giving them a hug and saying, hey, babe, I'm going to bed. You want to join me? If you're feeling like there's a lot of inflammation in their body, maybe the intimacy is suffering because they're not happy in their body. This happens with a lot of my clients. When you're not happy within your physical body, then when you go to be intimate, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of jealousy. There's all of these other issues that are coming into play, and you know that it's taking a toll on your intimacy. So maybe you get up in the morning or in the evening and you say, hey, I'm going to go for a walk, babe. Do you want to go with me? You're not demanding that they go. You're not making them go. You're not even making them feel bad about going. You're setting the example and saying, this is something that I'm going to do to make myself feel better. Would you like to join me? Your partner will be way more willing to go on a walk with you if you ask in that way versus you coming in and saying, I thought you said you're going to walk. I thought you said you're watching what you eat. I thought you said you're going to do this. When you're being condescending and you're being judgy and you're pointing the finger and you're starting to criticize them, they're going to get defensive and they're going to start to say, well, what about you? What are you doing? What are you doing? And you're going to end up in this cycle of fighting when initially all you wanted to do was to get them to develop a better habit. So if this is something that you know that you're saying, Dr. Rose, I need my partner to change in this way, ask yourself first, how can you change? Because I had a lot of clients that say, I've been asking my partner, hey, we need to go on counseling sessions with Dr. Rose. We need to talk about a lot of the things that are happening in our PMDD relationship. And their partner wouldn't come. And you know what happened? They started booking sessions with me one-on-one. And then they would book the session and their partner would see the progress that would happen with them internally over the course of some weeks. And then they would say, hey, next session, I want to go on a session with you. You need to be the one to start the change, to influence them, not to demand that they change, because you don't want the change to come with bitterness, with resentment, with the ego. You want the change to come where they're seeing, wow, I see that my partner is really putting forth the effort in this specific way. I'm also going to put forth the effort. When you put the focus on you and not on your partner, then you're going to release yourself from demanding that your partner do anything differently, like a parent-child role. And you're going to say, I'm taking responsibility for my emotions. I'm taking responsibility for my health. I'm taking responsibility for my actions in the relationship. And I'm inviting you to join me. And it's not going to be immediate. It's not like, oh, I went to one session with you. I don't understand why they're not going in the session. Or I went on one walk. I don't understand. They need to see a pattern. It has to be that you intrinsically want to make yourself and your relationship better. And you're willing to do what it takes in order to do so without demanding it of your partner. Your partner heard you the first time. And a lot of times they know what it is that they're supposed to do. But you nagging them, you telling them and blaming them and shaming them is not going to make them do anything differently. What is going to make them do things differently is you influencing them by them seeing you put forth the effort and you say, I'm going to do this because I value the relationship. So if this is something that you know that you need to work on, this is the perfect time to do it, because I have my discount that's going on for the month of July, June and July. And I have the discount code, and it's called Freedom, and it's in the show notes. So if you're saying you're at a point where you've been telling your partner, maybe you want to get on sessions, maybe you want to start developing a plan for PMDD instead of winging it every month. Whatever you want to do in your PMDD relationship, I want you to have the courage to take the first step and not parenting your partner into persuasion. Parenting doesn't persuade your partner. It repels your partner. It makes them not want to do the things that you genuinely need and want them to do. So until next time, we got this. I love you. I hope these PMDD trauma transformational tools in this episode today helped you and your PMDD partner. If you're listening to this and you know that you need help further, you need customized PMDD relationship advice, go to inlovewithpmdd.com, get those counseling sessions. And until next episode, we got this. I love you.